as an electronic document, or can it be sent to us?
I can send it to you. You want it sent before?
Either way, doesn't matter. If I could put notes on it, I'd like it electronic, but if you
Okay.
don't, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll send it electronically right now.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Good evening and welcome to the Garfield Lakes Board of Education Special Board Meeting, October 21st, 2020. At this meeting, there will be no public participation. Roll call.
Mrs. Daniels,
Present.
Mrs. Kitson,
Here.
Ms. King,
Here.
Ms. Thomas,
Here.
Mr. Juby.
Here. Recommend adoption of agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Mrs. Kitson,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Juby.
Yes. Mr. Hankey?
Thank you, President Juby, members of the Board of Education. I wanted to update the board on some developments about our hybrid planning and our remote learning. During this presentation, we're going to talk about a new type of model that we'd like to introduce when, in fact, we do go hybrid, called the 2-1-2 model. We want to talk about special education this evening. We want to talk about safety and sanitation measures and the county's current red status and what that means for our district. The 2-1-2 hybrid model works like this. Students will be divided into two groups loosely by alphabet. The blue group will be students with last names beginning A through K. The gold group will be students with last names beginning L through Z. With this, there will be outlier classes that will need adjustments. Just because you divide by alphabet doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out where half the group is, say, 15 kids and then 15 kids in the second group. You might have a situation where it's 25-5, and so you have to readjust. Families will hear directly from the district on that. The other piece of this also is to try to keep families together. So if there is an issue where families are divided, that we want to make sure we work on that as well. This is how the week looks in the hybrid model. Monday and Tuesday, say it's my class, okay? It's Mr. Hankey's third grade class. I would meet with my blue group in-person learning. And then, for example, if it's Mr. Patton's third grade class, he would have his gold group, asynchronous remote learning. On Wednesday, we would have a no new instruction, asynchronous remote learning, reset and remediation day, and time for teacher planning and teacher-based teams. Then on Thursday and Friday, it would switch. I would see the second half of my class, or excuse me, Mr. Patton would see the second half of his class in gold group for in-person learning. My group would be asynchronous. And then the next week. And that's how that would go. Go ahead. Yes.
Can you define asynchronous for families?
Yes, I will in the next slide.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. What asynchronous learning is. It's working independently through Google Classroom. It's teachers posting assignments for students to complete on their own and review during in-person learning. Self-paced assignments, not necessarily spanning an entire class period. And it's opportunities for practice, preview, or extension. This is more of an independent type of learning for the families. So on those days, the 2 days that you are not in school, you will be participating in this type of learning.
Mr. Hankey?
Yes, go ahead.
The days we aren't, so Wednesday they're home-based too, right?
Correct, and that day is not necessary. There can be some asynchronous learning that day, but also you have a situation where, okay, so I have a few students that may have a difficulty on a lesson or may have a difficulty with a skill, and I'm able to meet with them in small groups through Zoom. Additionally, teachers will get the opportunity to help plan. When you have the asynchronous piece, the teachers will need some extra time for planning so they can reach both groups. So that's why we have that in there. What we want to impart on teachers and students is that asynchronous is not busy work. It's not disconnected from your unit or lesson or class session, and it is certainly not work to hurry through. We want students to fully participate in the asynchronous sessions because that will give them the full lesson as they move through the week. To go a little bit further, Ms. Kitson, to your point on Reset Workshop Wednesdays, we're calling them. Students are given opportunities to remotely work with teachers, providing chances to review, catch up, redo, or work through difficult concepts. Teachers will have an opportunity to plan for, grade, and assign asynchronous work, as well as prepare their in-person lessons. One issue that I wanted to cover within this model is the equity piece. I spoke with Ms. Hamilton and our equity consultant and kind of ran these slides by her. This is a kind of 500-foot look at this. And in our equity task force, Ms. Daniels, we did discuss the 2-1-2 model last week. The one good thing about this model is it offers predictability for parents. And it still offers an opportunity for in-person learning. Our most vulnerable populations will be supported. And one of the things we're looking at, and we're going to be discussing tomorrow at our equity task force meeting, is our equity rubric, where we go through and we look at the most vulnerable populations and how they're being served, given this particular model. One change under this model, and one thing we want to institute if we stay remote, is that low incident special education students that are in self-contained settings will attend school in person twice weekly. If in fact we go to a 2-1-2 hybrid model, they'll follow that model. But if we are out remote, we want to start phasing those students in twice weekly, and I'm going to get to that piece in a second in terms of how that looks. Hybrid model also allows for in-person check-ins for our vulnerable populations, which will benefit our students. And we need to continue to support our families through our family engagement office, as well as through the buildings. These Wednesdays and also other days allow for professional development in the equity sphere, as well as other professional development opportunities for staff. But specifically, we can leverage our equity things to give it to the teachers in a professional development setting. Now, I'm going to have Mr. Saluka come and present his things, and then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the county red status and how that affects the district. Mr. Saluka?
Thank you, Mr. Hankey. I just wanted to go over some of the safety measures that we were doing in the buildings and also cover what we're going to be doing with our transportation and our food service. So we've been talking about these over a long period of time, but we're documenting right now for the public exactly what we're doing. And I'm going to start off with the thermal imagers. We have placed thermal imagers in each of our buildings, and we have strategically placed them at the entrances where we think is going to be the best flow for students to be able to come in and then access their classrooms either through, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, hallways or stairwells one way. The idea is every student, every staff member, every visitor will go through one entrance. They will get their face up in thermal imager, stand in front, quick read. There is a monitor that will say their temperature, and then they either be sent on their way. But if the monitor is reading a higher temperature, and what we're setting at in the CDC guidelines of 100.6 or 100.4, I can't remember which one it is, I said 100.6. If that's the case and somebody reads high, we will have that person step over to the side, and then we will put the thermal the touchless thermometer, rescan them again with a touchless thermometer. If the scan is good, then we will send them on their way. If the scan is not, then if it's a student, we have a quarantine room, designated quarantine room that we will send them to and then call the parent. If it is a staff member, we will send them home. If it's a visitor, we'll turn them away and send them back out of their building. So this whole idea of coming in, it takes maybe about 5 seconds, stand in front, red light, read the image. We will have somebody at the door reading the images. Students, staff members will not be able to see what their temperature reading is. We will have somebody reading it and then pull them aside. What we don't want is social shaming. If all of a sudden somebody comes in and it blinks the red light and then other kids see that, we don't want that. So there will be no one not be able to see it. We have a staff member that out to the side sees the image, the temperature, and then we decide from there. So like I said, we have these in each of our buildings, and then so we should feel that every student, 1, 2, 3, be able to get in the building. Now that we have class sizes, we think we can do this in a quick and orderly fashion. Don't get me wrong, the first couple days it's going to be a little bit of craziness, but I think once, as we always say, get into a rhythm, it'll go smoothly. So, but we think this is the first step that we're going to take in trying to head off anything that potentially could be hazardous at that time. Let's see here. We go to the next slide. So ionization. We looked at 2 areas for the HVAC systems in our school buildings. The first one being ultraviolet light, and the second one being ionization. All studies point to ionization is more effective than the ultraviolet light. And then we look through and the studies, and we have a partner called Gardner, who helps. And so we went through and we did all the studies. You can see there that the ionization offered a better protection. And so what we're going to be doing is we are going to put these plasma ionization units in each of our schools. And you can see there the high school is going to get 10 units, middle school 15, Elmwood 5, Maple Leaf 5, William Foster 13. We are going to be putting them in all of our air handlers and our rooftop units. And what these little boxes do is, as the air passes through them, they ionize that air, and it kills the germs, including COVID. It's been proven, tested, it kills as the air flows through. The difference between ionization and the ultraviolet light is, for the ultraviolet light to work, the air would have to sit there for a few minutes, the light hits it, and then it goes on its way. Well, we want airflow. Everybody you talk to anymore, HVAC, says airflow is the key. And that's what we want to do. Now, middle school is a little bit different because they have different systems. They have univents, and we don't have that airflow like we have in the other with the air handlers. So what we are doing at the middle school is we are installing, as we speak, a whole building ventilation system. And what that does, it'll let us to ventilate the whole building in a system that just pushes air constantly around through the building. And that's what we want. We don't want stagnant air. We want fresh air coming from the outside, gets pushed through the building and back up. So that's what we're doing at the middle school. The units that we're going in there, the 15 units are over for the band room. We have some rooftop units. The cafeteria, we have some units, and then some of the upper classrooms near the library have units. But the rest of the building will have this whole ventilation system, so we'll be able to push fresh air. And that's what we want to do in all our buildings. We're going to be pushing fresh air. On top of, and the last thing we want to do with HVAC is we're going to have teachers open windows. Fresh air too. Ionization will be on, but the fresh air is key to having a good airflow, and I get, in the winter months, but still, fresh air is the key, and that's why we're going with the ionization units and not going with the ultraviolet lights. On top of, the ionization units don't need to be replaced, whereas ultraviolet lights have a short shelf life, so we would probably have to replace them like every 5 years, and that could be a maintenance nightmare. So the ionization units are the way to go, pushing fresh air through the buildings. Additional steps that we've taken, we've done building walkthroughs. In fact, I put one here, but we've done them twice. We've identified any of the key social distancing areas that we need to address in each buildings. We've placed plexiglass around all the office desks. That was the initial, so if anybody's coming into the main office, all of the secretaries are behind plexiglass, and any student that needs to come into the office, you know, there's that barrier. There's also the barrier between employees with plexiglass. We put plexiglass in any offices that is going to be meeting with students or parents or one-on-one in conference rooms to make sure that there's a barrier there. Now, we are not doing plexiglass in classrooms due to the fact of we are putting classroom designations and we're setting up classrooms so that the desks will be social distance along with the distance between the teacher and the student desks. So what we have done is we've put down a minimum of 3 feet, which is the American Association of Pediatricians. That's their guidelines, to a maximum of 6 feet. We will try to get, and our target is 6 feet, but sometimes the class size, depending on where the AK and the LZ configuration comes in, we're starting at a minimum of 3 feet for social distancing. So that's why we're doing 3 feet, and every classroom will be configured for 3 feet. So that's a minimum of 3 feet, along with the distance between the first desk and the front of the classroom, so the teacher has social distance. The next step, like I said before, we established the quarantine rooms in each of the building, and they're identified, and they're close to the entrance. We've identified all hallway and high traffic areas, elementaries. We're trying to do maybe one-way stairs as a student comes in. If you're 4th grade, you're going down this hall. If you're 2nd grade, you're going down this hall. If you're 1st grade, you're going straight up the stairs. So you're not all going down one hall together. And then we've identified it where we can, upstairs and downstairs. So if you're going to go up here, maybe the far hallway, you're coming down and going out, so you don't have to go past. For those buildings that you do have to go in the same hallway and change classes, we're putting lines down the middle of the hallway. We're putting arrows on floors. Stay to the right, going down the hallway. We're also putting down when you're outside or you're going to be in a line somewhere, we will have lines social distance 6 feet apart. As you go in, you'll have stickers. If you line up in a hallway, you'll have stickers on the wall keeping 6 feet apart. So the kids will be able to tell if they're 6 feet apart from the next person. We will be doing that outside in front of the thermal imaging entrance, and we will do that as far as we can go with the lines, and we'll be measuring it out, and we're ready to go with that plan. We also have numerous signage in the buildings. If it's a one-way stairway or one-way hallway, we'll have don't come up here, stop, one way, masks, social distancing. We'll have signage all over the place to make sure, just to remind people, and you probably saw when you came in, at least for the masks for the first thing. So we're going to have those signs going, so we will be emphasizing social distance as we go. The other big thing is the sanitizing and cleaning procedures. We have purchased 12 backpack battery sprayers. They kind of look like the weed sprayers, but these are batteries, so they can project out. And we've also purchased 7 Nutristatic sprayers. Those are the green guns where you just go down and spray high-touch surfaces. So we've purchased those. Every building has those. The idea is every classroom at the end of the day will be cleaned and sprayed down. Same with the Nutristatic sprayers. Also during the day, we are hiring housekeepers trying to hire housekeepers for each of the buildings. Their main job is to go around during the day and spray high-touch surfaces and wipe down high-touch surfaces, including at regular intervals going into the bathrooms and spraying it down and wiping it down after each class goes in there. That's our goal, to keep the building safe. Now we have 2 types of solutions. We have an older solution where you spray it down, safe for human touch and everything, but you spray it down, it dries in 10 minutes. We have another solution, you spray it down, it dries in 3 minutes. Spray it on surfaces, it's safe to the touch. So it's, but it's according to our rep, that it's been certified to kill the COVID and any other bacteria or type of disease that we could have in the classroom. So that's our main goal every day, is to make sure we spray down high-touch surfaces and wipe down in bathrooms in each of the buildings. So if a class goes to the bathroom, we'll go in there and spray it down and wipe it down. That's what we're going to be doing. As far as the student desks, we're going to be changing classes, high school, middle school. The goal here is teacher walks around, has the spray bottle, a small spray bottle with a nutristatic sprayer, squirts the desk. Student can take a paper towel, wipe it down, throw it out as they leave the classroom. It's ready for the next class. The teacher will have control of the spray bottle. It's not so you spray it and everybody gets it. All you squirt, we'll go to the next one and they wipe down and move on. Dries in 3 minutes. Next class will come in, sit down. They'll have a safe desk to sit at, and it won't be wet or anything like that. That's the goal, to keep those students safe that are changing class. PPE supplies. We've already purchased face masks and shields for our staff members. Everybody has gotten them, so that at least they have those two. We've purchased masks for students, and we will have those readily available for those students that come to school without a mask. So those will be in the building. We've purchased hand sanitizer. The goal is every classroom will have a jug of hand sanitizer and a spray bottle for the teacher to spray down. So, and those will be filled on daily intervals with the staff, the housekeeping staff, if it's running low. And that's going to be an ongoing thing. That's going to be a constant, that they'll have that in their classroom to make sure. The last thing is that we bought over 30 touchless thermometers for use in the various school buildings. If we need to, we will buy more. But they have available for the touchless thermometers. Each building has enough that they can go around and use for whatever purpose they need. So, so we've all purchased that, so every building has that as the backup to the thermal imagers. On the transportation side, we're following the ODE guidelines for bus capacity. What they're saying is 1 child per seat. For our larger buses, that's a maximum of 27 students on those buses. They will be sitting as they go back to front when they get on the bus, and then they will go off front to back. We will highly encourage families to sit together for 2 people on a seat, but if not, they're going to be 1 per seat, and they're going to go window aisle, window aisle, window aisle, so they're not going to be right behind. We have aides on the buses that will enforce that. We know how kids like to talk and lean over and do, but we will have aides on the buses to enforce that, to make sure it's a little easier to control when you have 1 per seat. There will not be a seat open behind the driver, but we will have COVID extra supplies for the driver behind, including face masks, should a student come to the bus stop without a mask. The biggest thing, though, what this ended up doing is for us to be able to transport all of our students and get them to the schools on time and to meet the school times, as we needed to push out to the legal limit of the 2 miles. Do we want to do that? No. Does it, first, you know, we were at 1.5, we're pushing out to 2. Is that going to cut some people off of being able to get transportation? Yes, it does. Will we be contacting those people? Yes, we will. The hard part is we cannot transport 1.5 and out with the 1 per bus. And the next thing is what we're going to be doing after every run, before we pick up the next run, because we do middle school then elementary, before we pick up a next run or we do something, we spray down. Every driver gets one of those Nutristatic or the other sprayers, sprays down and wipes down their bus, wait till it dries, and then they'll start on their next run. The time limits of starting school prohibit us from being able to keep making multiple runs and multiple runs. Kids will be getting to school way late. So we need, unfortunately, to push that out to the 2 mile limit. If something happens throughout the year and we kind of go back as a full school and we get down and Mr. Hankey makes that call and they loosen some of the guidelines, we will go back to 2 per seat, and we will extend back out to 1.5 miles if that time comes, and we will notify those individuals. But right now, we just cannot do it with the capacity. Don't get me wrong, the question was asked. We have the number of buses, we just don't have the drivers. That's our difficulty, is getting enough drivers.
I do have a question about the bus.
Yes.
Now that we're going hybrid
Mm-hmm.
in the 212, I'm understanding that half of the students that we initially anticipated to transport daily is going to be transported. So it seems like we won't have the same bus capacity issues that we did when we had this conversation initially with the
No,
hybrid model?
the bus capacity issues was already going with the 1 week on, 1 week off hybrid model with half the students coming.
Okay.
Yeah, that was part of in the beginning of determining whether we could do it with the half capacity.
Thank you.
Yes. And then the last thing is, from an operational standpoint, food service. All students in the district are eligible for free breakfast and free lunch. I know that the USDA has pushed that out for all school districts. We were already there. So I want the parents to know that you are, if a student, you are eligible. Parents should also know, if you're watching and your student goes to another school, you live in Garfield Heights, you are eligible for food. So if your child goes to St. Benedict or goes to Trinity or goes somewhere else and you are a Garfield Heights resident, you could sign up and get a free meal, pick it up from us. So make sure that, so you know that the public can know that they can use our sign up on our website to get the meals.
Even students that's like in K-12 or online schools?
Yes. It's for, and I think that was the big misconsumer about the BDA. Yeah, absolutely, you're eligible for food. So that will be continued to going, yeah. We'll continue that program. We will continue the food distribution. We will continue the food distribution to the remote learners. We were working on a plan. If you were on the asynchronous plan and you were home, we were working on a plan to get you the food, how that would look, whether you walked out and carried a bag for 3 days and then you come back. We're working on that plan. Still know that you're eligible for that. Also, if we stay remote for a while because we're in red, however, we will continue with the pickup. We will also continue with the delivery. When we start back to school and the hybrid, we will discontinue the delivery because our drivers will actually be driving students versus being able to deliver lunches. So I just wanted to point that out there. Elementary classroom students, they'll be eating in their classroom. We will be taking the food to them and making sure that that way they can stay in a contained group. Middle school, since they're changing classrooms, they don't have it. They will be coming down to the cafeteria, getting their food in whatever classroom they're in. At that lunchtime, they will be taking the food back to the classroom. High school is going to be a little bit different. Our goal here is to come, get your food, and then you will have a designated area where you'll be eating. Not everybody can eat in the cafeteria. It doesn't have the capacity for social distancing. We're working through identifying not just the cafeteria, but other areas in the school where you can take your lunch and breakfast and eat and be social distance. That's the biggest goal, is to be social distance. So that's our game plan for food service distribution as we move forward. With that, I could take any questions.
Mrs. Luke, I
yeah.
do have a question about the meals in
Yes.
the high school.
Yes.
Once those areas are identified,
Yes.
will students be assigned to areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They can't just pick and choose their area of, well, the first group gets in and wants the cafeteria tables, and the last ones in are walking all the way down. No, they're going to need to be assigned so they know. So consistency is the big thing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are the I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
actually. Are the units in the building yet?
They are not in the building yet. They are coming November 18th. That's the drop dead date I heard from our contractor. However, the middle school vent system will be in place by the end of next week and running.
So like if we find in the winter months, as far as the middle school goes, and leaving the windows cracked causes, not the most comfortable situation for students, do we have a backup plan as far as those classes, or are we looking at that possibility, if our plan for the middle school don't work, do we have an alternate that we're looking at?
I'm not
I mean,
not
I'm just
following.
saying, like, when the windows cracked, and think last year in the middle school, it was times where the heat wasn't working.
Well, and that's well, and that's no. Don't get me wrong. The heat will be working. I say that now. It was always the air conditioning. I was iffy. The heat will be working, and I know that the airflow is going to be a big thing of getting everything going. Yeah, the goal is to make sure if the windows are cracked, the heat will be running and through the univents. So, but we think that we have a good plan in place. Now, don't get me wrong. If something happens, we might have to punt and go to Plan B. But you know, we have. We'll make sure before this really cold season comes that everything is working and in place.
Okay.
So, do we have a Plan B yet? No, I'm trying to be optimistic and not needing a Plan B. And don't get me wrong, we're already on Plan D and Plan E because of everything that's going on. But you know, this one I'm cautiously optimistic. But we will have a Plan B based on that suggestion, Mrs. Daniels.
Okay, thank you.
Just to piggyback on Ms. Daniels, the main item that is really taking care of the COVID is the additions that they're putting in now to the HVAC. But it's if you crack the window, it helps even more.
Fresh
but
air.
We're still safe
Right.
if the windows are closed with the new units.
Right, absolutely. It'll
Okay.
still be safe with the airflow moving. The biggest thing that they say is that airflow. And another thing I forgot to mention is that the County Board of Health does inspections. We got a memo from Matt Johnson, who is our rep, good guy, comes in. Their mandate now is to look at HVAC systems in all the schools and buildings. So I think that, I think we're ahead of the game with some of this. So I'll be curious to see what he says.
So they'll clear before our students come in, or how do we
I don't think
know?
they'll clear, but I'm going to say, do you have a system for how your airflow, what are you going to do, windows, how are you going to take care of this? What are you doing to address the air in the building? I think that's going to be, I don't think they have a clear-cut mandate. We have not seen any mandates of what you need to be doing on this, but I think that they will be making either, if you don't have anything in place, make a recommendation. But I think we have a good plan in place. moving
As far
forward.
as the airflow and making sure everything is working properly and safe, like, who do we have that certifies that for us as a district, this is the air is flowing appropriately and safely to kill COVID today? Who certifies that or guarantees that to make sure that everything is working properly?
We actually have bought 2 units from the company that's putting this in, Gardner, and they're 2 measurement units that we will have in the district to check our air.
Okay.
So,
And
yeah,
how often will we be checking that?
well, I think we're probably going to be doing it, if not daily, every other day.
Okay, thank you.
We have students in the high school now for extracurricular sports. We're in this room. Is there continuous flow systems now in place at the high school?
During the day, the air handlers are running. I think we turned them off in here so we can hear. But yes, during the day, the air handlers will be running when students and staff is in here. We just turn them. They shut off. The hard part is what we do is, since they're on a timer, we shut them off at the end of the day, knowing the students should be out and everything else. And that's probably why we're not hearing it in here, plus the noise sometimes. But definitely they will be running, and definitely we will be checking this on a regular basis to make sure that the system is running the way we need it to be running. Thank you. And don't get me wrong, and I'll say this out to the public and to anybody, if they have any questions on the system or anything, feel free to email me, and we can talk about it a little bit more. Like I said, sorry, I'm like big talker. Those units were supposed to be in. The manufacturer is running a little bit behind, but I said to guarantee him that they will be in by November 18th. So I'm holding them to it. Or I want,
And that's
so,
just
or
at the
I
middle
want.
school or
No, that's
everywhere?
the whole. That's middle school is just small, but that's all of our buildings. Or maybe I'll need a discount if he doesn't deliver. Should have got him a delivery incentive.
Because we're talking about the ionizers, right?
Yes.
In the middle
The
school,
they're like
doesn't
little hockey
have
pucks that get put right in
ionizers.
the air handlers.
Yeah.
In the middle schools, that whole ventilation system is going in now. It's just putting in the hockey pucks in the other units.
And so the air is like safe, not, pretty safe for the people coming in and out.
Absolutely. I mean, we had windows open and we're working through that, yes.
Thanks, Mr. Saluka. One thing I think I neglected to mention on the 2-1-2 model with the alphabet split, it brings us down to where there's going to be approximately no more than 15 students in a classroom. There may be some outliers. We will ensure social distancing, and we'll take a look at the rooms. But we believe that this will allow us to appropriately social distance. And with all that, though, the county is red. Red status on the Ohio Department of Health's alert system for COVID. And I now want to go through what that may mean for us. First of all, I want to start with, just excuse me a second, I'm going to pull this up. The results from our parent survey. This survey was given before, and I do apologize to the board. I did not include this. If you can if you can crane a little bit, I can also talk about it. I apologize. We had 1,072 responses on this survey. And the first question was, are you familiar with the color-coded Cuyahoga County? It's actually the Ohio Department of Health alert system. The vast majority of our parents are, yes.
When was the survey given?
It was given up until, let me see when, I think we ended it not this past week, the week before.
Okay.
Okay. What's that? Mid-October, thank you. So my point is, when we go through these answers, you're going to see that there probably are going to be some adjustments, I think, based on the county alert. The next question was very simply, again, this was before the red level. Should the district decide to bring back students full-time at the end of the first quarter, would you be comfortable sending your child or children back? 57% of the parents said no, they would not. And this question was about in a hybrid format. Should the school district decide to bring students back in a hybrid format, online and in-person learning at the end of the first quarter, would you be comfortable sending your children back to school? And again, 57% said yes.
And these are all parents, including parents that have students enrolled in the Bulldog Academy?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and Ms. Thomas, not like our first survey. This was a Google survey, so it's not scientific. So people could access this, but I think one thing I took from these data is it seems like it's relatively accurate because it's not, a sliver or something like that. It seems like I think people answered it well. Now, I think this last answer brings us to where we are with the red status. And again, this was given before the red status. If the county COVID infection rate spikes in October, are you comfortable with the district deciding to keep students working remotely full-time until the end of the first semester, January of 2021? 86% of parents said yes. We are in that situation right now. We according to the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, the governor's office, and the Ohio Department of Health, we have a widespread issue with COVID. Approximately 69 out of all the 88 counties are considered high incidence in terms of in COVID infection spread. I'm going to go back here to my slides. This particular red status, just for the board and the parents that are watching, is part of a alert system that goes from yellow, meaning the lowest incidence of infection or spread, to orange, which is a moderate to high incidence of infection or spread, to red, which is widespread community spread of COVID, to purple. And in this red piece, the Cuyahoga County Board of Health is recommending remote learning. It does say in their recommendation that special education students in small settings may attend in person. goes back to my original slide about students coming in low incident settings 2 days a week. We believe we can do that safely. Mrs. Pillitz is working with parents to ensure that they feel comfortable coming back, and if they do not, then we work through the remote learning plan and we let them access education that way. If the county goes to and one caveat I didn't put in the red status. Right now, I'll just speak to sports right now. I've been in touch with Mr. Krasnowick, our coordinator of athletics and student activities. Also, first-string superintendents. Everyone is still planning on winter sports proceeding under the red status, but we are keeping a very, very close eye on that because these are indoor activities. But as of now, folks are planning on it. I specifically talked to adjacent districts, superintendents in Bedford and Warrensville Heights and Maple Heights, and they are all planning on moving forward with winter sports. We're going to have to take a close look at how that's progressing. Competitions don't start until the last week of November. Practices are happening. Obviously, there's no spectators. Spectators under OHSAA guidelines are the same as they are, say, for the football stadiums, 15% capacity. So a well-attended event like a varsity basketball, you'd only have maybe 200 to 250 people in the gym completely. Our capacity is a few thousand. However, again, I was on with the first-string superintendents today, and we are all taking a very close look at that. Purple status. If this does happen, and it's going to cause some more drastic measures in terms of who is in and who is out. All students will be in remote learning. Those not essential to the physical upkeep of the building and food distribution will return to working from home, from the central office all the way down through the buildings. All sports are canceled and all extracurricular activities are canceled or are virtual under purple status. I don't believe there has been a county yet that has achieved, but their infection rate has gone up to where it is purple status. But I will show you some modeling that the Cuyahoga County Board of Health's been doing. With that, I'm recommending that the district stay remote until at least after Thanksgiving break. If we have everyone start to social distance and mask and we drive the infection rate down for the next few weeks, it'd be great if we could return after Thanksgiving break. I want to update the board at the November meeting to make a decision about whether or not we stay remote through the first semester.
What dates are Thanksgiving break?
Thanksgiving break. Hold on, Mr. Patton has it. I don't have my phone in front of me. So
Is our board meeting?
Yes. And if we have to make that decision before that, and we have to have a special work session, we will. I just wanted to give the board and myself some wiggle room. Again, if there is not miraculous, but everything goes down over the next few weeks. But unfortunately, as you'll see through the modeling, I don't think that's going to happen. According to the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, the county is trending in the wrong direction. Their current modeling, which has been very predictive, meaning it's been over the past months, their models have mirrored what has then happened. It predicts an ongoing surge. I'm going to go here real quick. Again, I apologize. I will send this along, but basically what you have here are various counties. Now, if you look at Cuyahoga County here from September 1st to November 1st, here's your predictive piece. This line is your median. These lines are if it accelerates itself, and these lines are for the infections decelerate. The predicted cases, if you look here, you're looking for between 50 and 350. Different counties have obviously different projections based on numbers and things of that nature. We're relatively similar to Summit, which is also more of a populated county. The more rural counties Medina and Lake are projecting down. Interestingly, an outlier here is Lorraine, but Lorraine also has a mix of rural and urban environments. So you have that issue. One more real quick. This is the accelerated view. This is 0 to 1,000 cases, and this is a worst case scenario graph. You see the median here upticking to about 200 to 250 cases. If something dire happens, upwards of 1,000 cases. Their regular trajectories remained very true. So the Board of Health is quite concerned. The area superintendents, meaning most in Cuyahoga County and some from these surrounding counties, meet every Friday with the Board of Health leadership. This past Friday, they expressed a lot of concern. They're concerned about in-home social gatherings. They're concerned about, they remain concerned about bars and restaurants that aren't following social distancing protocols, because there are some that are not. They're also concerned just about people's personal activity. Within schools, you've had schools that have successfully, school districts successfully come back or remained fine. You've had other school districts that have not. Depending on, it's really been brought into the schools from outside. I also contacted officials from Marymount Hospital. Marymount obviously is here in Garfield Heights. It is also one of the designated COVID hospitals for the Cleveland Clinic system. What that means is that if there are patients, some of them may get sent to Marymount for treatment. Dr. Dan Naprakowski is the president of Marymount Hospital. He's been a good partner with me and with the district in terms of sharing information. When I questioned him was, I said, Dr. Naprakowski, I'm thinking about recommending that we stay out until after Thanksgiving, if not longer. What are you seeing at Marymount? And he wrote back, I'm just going to read a little bit of this. It says, hello, Chris. Your approach sounds reasonable in terms of staying remote through Thanksgiving. He does give the caveat, obviously, it's his recommendation. And he says, you are best to use information I can give you in conjunction with recommendations from the CDC and Ohio Department of Health. It seems that COVID will be with us at least through the spring, and your guess would be as good as mine as to when we will see an end. We have seen a modest uptick in the number of cases at Marymount. Most of the new outbreaks seem to be coming from more of the rural areas around the state. And again, these patients then come to Marymount, where social distancing and mask wearing are not followed to the same degree as here in the city. Our current number of COVID patients is 18, the same numbers that we had seen several weeks ago, but up from single-digit numbers over the past 2 weeks. Fortunately, there have been no significant increases in COVID-related deaths or ventilated patients. And his last, and I think most important reminder, the important thing to remember is that mask wearing and social distancing are key to keeping the students safe more so than anything else. And again, that's from our local health, our very local health authority here in Garfield Heights. Now, I have a little video, and really this is geared toward all of us. This was done by the Stanford Medical School. I just think it's a really good reminder about where we were back in March when this all started and where we're going. And there isn't, just for parents, if this sounds a little muffled, there isn't any, it's kind of a cartoon. There isn't any voice on it, so you should be able to watch it. But I think it's a clever kind of way to look at what has happened. I just think that's a good reminder of where things are and hopefully where things will go. And, you know, we're in the education business here, and so we want to make sure that people are educated about how to make sure we do stop this for ourselves. And it is, and the governor said it yesterday, is kind of up to us. I thank President Juby, I thank the board, and I entertain any questions.
What has been our communication with our teachers about the return?
Mrs. Reisler met with the group of teacher leaders last week that were curriculum leaders in the buildings, and she got feedback on the switch to a possible switch to a different hybrid model. And they really were enthusiastic about it. We have also communicated with the GHTA, Mr. Patton, in terms of what it was and what is going to occur.
And will the BDA continue to be the same, or will they have that Wednesday break time like the hybrid mode?
So we are actually looking at that very closely, and we think that that might be a good switch for them because of planning, and also because the Bulldog Digital Academy teachers and students were looking to see if they could do something a little differently. We do not have that completely gamed out yet in terms of how that's going to look, but we do want to make sure that we offer folks substantially similar types of education. Now, and in the future, when you have an asynchronous and in-person model, they can benefit from that past COVID if they're in fact in an online only type of model.
So I do have a question for our hybrid students. When are we planning to roll out this 2-1-2? Are there going to be modeling the new remote model prior to Thanksgiving break, or are we going to be kind of changing this model prior to Thanksgiving, or are we going to keep everything as is until we decide if we're going to bring students back?
An excellent question. Mr. Patton, jump in if I speak out of pocket. But thank you. That is absolutely what we'd like to do, is to start, even with, if we're remote, to start to model this type of structure. Now, again, this is something that came out of the teacher conversations as well. And we will keep people informed. This is not flipping a light switch, though. We don't want to go from one day doing one thing and the next day doing the other. We want to slowly and make methodically over the next couple of weeks make sure that we are able to transition to this appropriately.
Start the second semester November 9th.
Yes. Yeah.
Still online.
And that's possibly, and that's all students, or you guys are figuring out the BDA?
The BDA, I still want to have conversations with folks about in terms of how that looks, because at some point, again, in the future, with COVID, hopefully, going away, we hope the Bulldog Digital Academy has a future. It might be smaller, but we want to look at a sustainable model for them. It may look a little different. However, we want to also offer the teachers the same opportunity in terms of planning. So I don't mean to be convoluted there, but I do want to look at it a little more.
Well, I just want to say that I think also the students may need that Wednesday and those one-on-one opportunities, just like the other students. I think that actually end up rolling into like an equity issue for the students. So I think the BDA students could probably benefit also from the Wednesday catch up and one-on-one time like the other students. So I just kind of wanted to share that.
I absolutely, Mrs. Daniels, will take that into account, and it's certainly something we're taking a close look at.
Yeah, Mr. Hankey, two questions. The special ed kids, according to what you have down on the paper, they'll still be able to come in 2 times a week?
Yes,
if they're on the red status?
The low incidence disabilities students that are in self-contained environments. Now, there are going to be students that for any number of reasons may not want to attend. And we will work with each student individually through the IEP team to make accommodations for them. You know, we're going to have students that have some medical issue. They're going to have students that Parents would not like them to come in because of COVID, and so we're going to make sure that we serve them. But we do want to try twice a week to get our low incidence students back in the buildings.
Okay, one last question.
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you. Got it.
Just so I understand this, we're going to be on remote learning until at least Thanksgiving.
At least, and I just wanted to give all of us, again, I think, given the predictive models, we're probably going to be on remote learning for the first semester, but I do not want to lock us into that. Again, let's hope for a miracle. Hopefully, we all take all this to heart that's going on, and, the infection rate goes way down, but unfortunately, that is not the information I'm getting from the health authorities.
I have two questions. So just to clarify, on November 9th, until November 9th, we are going to use the model that we have in place now, where it's 5 days of virtual learning. After November 9th, until at least Thanksgiving break, we're going to build in this new model where the 2 days are virtually in face-to-face. And then there'll be more individualized activities for the students on Thursday and Friday.
That is
correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So again, if you were a gold day, starting on November 9th, you're going to be in session that Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday would be the gold day is Monday, Tuesday, 2 days back and forth. And then, and then Wednesday would be the reset day or the catch-up day. And then those students on Thursday, Friday, their sessions are the 2 days that they're working with the teacher.
Okay.
So the idea is that you get them, we're building up, hopefully to bring them back, so when we mirror the hybrid schedule,
Correct.
they have a familiarity with what we're progressing forward with.
Now, how's the accountability work for that with both students and staff?
Well, I can start with staff. The staff will have students all 4 days, so they will be in session in terms of accountability that way. On Wednesdays, the staff will. My staff's professional. They will make sure that they're doing what they need to do, and they have thus far. We always encourage staff, if they have an issue, to use sick time if they are in fact sick. That's the one thing we need to get across to folks, actually, is that if you are ill, in or out, make sure you take care of yourself. With students, we are going to continue home visits. As the board has seen, I am tracking those weekly. I'm going to keep giving reports to the Board of Education on those. And the good thing about the hybrid, as I said, in terms of an equity piece, is the in-person check-ins with the students. And we need to continue to troubleshoot, and I know Mrs. Bailey's standing back there, any technology issues that the students have as we move forward.
So what will the students do on Wednesday? Will there be, if they're working on projects, will there be a teacher or someone available to assist?
The teachers are going to work in small groups with students that may need some help, and the other students will be working much like the other 2 days asynchronously. Now, there could be an opportunity if a teacher wants to do it. There's flexibility there. If they want to pull in the whole class again for in-person learning, they can do so. The other piece of this, again, is when you're planning for the asynchronous piece, it's going to help the teachers in the afternoon, I think, with some additional planning time.
Okay.
But if a student is having difficulty, they can request on Wednesday to have a one-on-one if they're not understanding the project that they're working on, or they need some one-on-one, they can request that from their instructor?
I can't promise one-to-one, but I can promise small group.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris,
that
will
would-
this,
oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just wondering, that would be for Thursday and Friday, or the days that they're asynchronous too. I mean, if
Well-
a student's struggling, who would they reach out to?
So if a student's struggling during the asynchronous days, we're going to encourage them to message the teachers. The teachers are going to have to work with them, though. They're not going to be able to get to them that day. That's one of the. There's always a trade-off with these types of models, but for safety and social distancing purposes, and also to help the parents in terms of equity, we think it's the best of the models. Yeah.
Okay, will the teachers be working from home, or some, I think most of, or a lot of them are working out of their own school buildings right now?
We are going to keep the same model moving forward. So the teachers have chosen either to work at home or to work here in the buildings. And the Bulldog Digital Academy teachers, I believe, are all home. Wanted to make sure of that. We work with individual teachers if they do want to make a switch. We do work through Mr. Patton's office and through the principals. And also I believe there's been some digital academy teachers that have wanted to do some things in the building. So we allow it. We have to be very careful in terms of contact tracing and people in and out of the building. That's our main issue.
And they're going to go through all the temperature checks and all that every day they come in, correct?
Yes, and they do so currently.
As far as my concern is extracurriculars with the winter sports, being indoors. We at this time do not test for COVID at all on our athletes, correct? I know we do temperature checks and we do symptomatology checks and that. Is there any plan to have COVID testing, especially if we're having contests with other students coming in? Thank you.
Quite frankly, according to OHSAA and the Lake Erie League and everyone I've talked to, no, there is not. I share concerns. I do want to give students the opportunity to participate. We did so very safely. I know a lot of it was outdoors. I think we did so very safely in the fall. But we're going to have to keep a very close eye on it, and I will keep the board apprised.
Maybe we can get a special donor like Lorraine did.
They got a donor?
Yeah,
Oh.
pay for COVID tests for
Oh, wow. Okay, well, if anyone's listening, but
So I have a little concern about the return to school plan for our K through second graders. I would like to hear a little bit of feedback from our K through 2 teachers about the activities that they plan to give our K through 2 students to keep them busy for 2 days of learning without being face-to-face remote.
it's going to be a challenge. A current challenge as I visit classrooms continues to be the younger students. It is a challenge. We'll get some feedback for you, Ms. Thomas. We'll pass it along, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Hankey.
Thank you, President Juby.
And Mr. Hanky, just to clarify, all students, staff, everyone is or are being notified now that remote is until Thanksgiving break?
They
Is that-
just were.
Okay.
We wanted to make this presentation to the Board of Education, receive feedback from all of you, and then we're moving forward with it. And we will also get this out. Hopefully, there are a number of parents watching. We did send out a review. Mrs. Bailey, do we know what our statistics are right now? 160 folks, so that's good. That means that hopefully the information will get disseminated. Also, we'll be sending this out through our various media.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
One last question. Do our teachers have the adequate training to do this asynchronous mode, and are they ready? Is it going to be a transition period that they will require to shift?
They received a lot of training on asynchronous throughout the summer, and we got a lot of good feedback from them when we had training. And they can also revisit the lessons we did through the ESC, through Stephanie DeMichael. But it will be a bit of a shift, much like the online learning was a shift. Through the next couple of weeks, we're going to be there to help them.
Okay.
Seeing no other questions, it is recommended board enter into executive session at 7:06 p.m. to discuss evaluation of personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. I'm sorry.
President Juby, I need to give this back to Mr. Salika.
Do my teacher's voice. Mrs. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Mrs. Kitson,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Juby.
Yes.
closed room?
It is, it
Oh, it
actually
is.
is. You just don't
Okay.
hear the air
Okay.
handlers.